I was sitting in my corner office, watching the city skyline through floor-to-ceiling windows, when my phone buzzed. Mom's name flashed on the screen, and for a split second, I felt that familiar flutter of hope. Maybe she was calling to check, and to ask about my promotion, or just to say she missed me. "Sarah, we need to talk." Her voice was ice cold, nothing like the warm mother I remembered from childhood. "What's wrong, Mom?" I set down my coffee, already sensing the storm coming. "Your father and I have made a decision. Since you refuse to, help your brother in his time of need, we're removing you from our will. Consider yourself no longer part of this family." The words hit me like a physical blow. I gripped the edge of my desk, watching my reflection in the computer screen blur, as tears welled up. "Mom, I explained this already. Giving Jake more money won't help his gambling addiction. It'll only make it worse. He's your brother, Sarah. Family helps family. But clearly, you've forgotten what that means since you got your fancy job and moved to the city." I thought about the countless times I'd bailed Jake out before. The $20,000 for his business venture that went straight to a casino. The $15,000 for his emergency that funded a weekend in Vegas. Each time, I'd hoped it would be the last. "I've helped him more than you know, Mom, but I won't enable his destruction anymore." "Then you've made your choice. Don't bother coming home for Christmas. Or ever." The line went dead. I stared at my phone, watching the call duration disappear from the screen. 37 years of being their daughter, erased in a 3-minute conversation. The irony wasn't lost on me. I was being punished for finally learning to say no, for finally choosing my own well-being over their dysfunction. As I sat there in the silence of my office, memories flooded back like a dam bursting. Growing up, our house had 2 sets of rules, one for Jake and one for me. When Jake was 16 and crashed Dad's car while drunk, it was "boys will be boys," and "he's just going through a phase." When I came home 20 minutes past curfew, from studying at the library, I was grounded for a month because I was irresponsible and couldn't be trusted. Jake dropped out of college after 1 semester, spending his tuition money on poker games. Mom cried for a week, but then immediately started making excuses. "College isn't for everyone," she'd say. "Jake's just finding his path." Meanwhile, when I graduated summa cum laude and landed my first corporate job, the response was lukewarm congratulations followed by, "Don't let success go to your head, Sarah. Pride comes before a fall." The pattern was always the same. Jake's failures were circumstances beyond his control, temporary setbacks, or society's fault. My achievements were either downplayed or came with warnings about staying humble. When he lost job after job due to his gambling, it was because his bosses didn't understand him. When I got promoted to senior management at 28, it was because I was lucky and probably stepped on people to get there. The financial requests started small, 100 here, 500 there. "Just until Jake gets back on his feet," Mom would plead. But Jake never got back on his feet. He just learned that falling down meant someone would always catch him, dust him off, and hand him more money to lose. I remember the family dinner where I finally said enough. Jake had just asked for another loan this time, $10,000, for what he claimed was a sure-thing investment. When I refused, the entire table turned on me like I'd committed a crime. "How can you be so selfish?" Dad had demanded. "You make more in a month than most people see in a year." That's when I realized the truth that had been staring me in the face for decades. I wasn't their daughter, I was their ATM. And Jake wasn't their son, he was their eternal project, their excuse to feel needed and important. 3 days after that devastating phone call, I was still reeling when my phone rang again. This time it was Mrs. Henderson, our elderly neighbor who'd lived next door for 30 years. "Sarah, honey, I hope you don't mind me calling, but I thought you should know something." Her voice carried that careful tone people use when delivering bad news. "I saw a realtor putting up a 'coming soon' sign in your parents' front yard this morning." My heart stopped. "What do you mean, coming soon?" "Well, I asked your mother about it when I saw her getting the mail. She said they're selling the house to help Jake with some financial troubles. She seemed upset about it, but said they didn't have a choice. The house, our family home where I'd spent 18 years of my life, where Mom had taught me to bake cookies in the kitchen with the yellow wallpaper, where Dad had pushed me on the tire swing he'd hung from the old oak tree, where I'd dreamed of bringing my own children someday to show them the pencil marks on the doorframe, tracking my height, year after year." "Did she say when?" I managed to ask, though my voice sounded foreign to my own ears. "She mentioned they want to list it next week. The realtor said the market's hot right now, so it should sell quickly." After Mrs. Henderson hung up, I sat in my car outside my apartment building for an hour, just staring at nothing. They were selling my childhood, my history, my inheritance, all to fund Jake's next gambling spree. The house that was supposed to be mine someday, the place where I'd planned to raise my future family, was being sacrificed on the altar of their enabling. That's when something shifted inside terrified me. A cold, calculating clarity replaced the hurt and confusion. If they wanted to play games with my inheritance, then I'd play too. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, my mind racing between hurt and anger, between the little girl who just wanted her parents' love and the successful woman who refused to be anyone's doormat anymore. By 3 a.m, I was sitting at my kitchen table with my laptop open, researching property values in my old neighborhood. The house was worth significantly more than my parents probably realized. The area had gentrified over the past decade, and similar homes were selling for nearly double what they'd paid 30 years ago. I pulled up my investment portfolio, my savings accounts, my 401k. The numbers stared back at me, representing years of careful planning and disciplined saving. I had enough. More than enough, actually. The idea that started as a whisper in the back of my mind grew louder with each passing hour. What if I bought it? What if I beat them at their own game? Part of me felt sick at the thought. Was I really considering this? Was I that petty, that vindictive? But then I remembered Jake's smirk at that family dinner, the way he'd looked at me like I was nothing more than a walking wallet. I remembered my mother's cold voice on the phone, cutting me out of their lives like I was disposable. No, this wasn't about revenge. This was about justice. This was about refusing to let them destroy the one thing that still connected me to the good memories of my childhood. This was about taking control of my own narrative instead of letting them write me out of it. By sunrise, my decision was made. I wasn't going to sit back and watch them sell my heritage to enable Jake's addiction. I wasn't going to let them erase me from the family story. I was going to buy my childhood home, and I was going to do it before they even knew what hit them. The thought should have terrified me. Instead, for the first time in days, I smiled. The next morning, I called in sick to work for the first time in 3 years. I had more important business to handle. I drove to my old neighborhood, parking 3 blocks away like some kind of spy. My heart hammered as I walked past the house, noting the realtor's contact information on the small sign Mrs. Henderson had mentioned. I snapped a photo quickly, feeling ridiculous but determined. Back in my car, I called the number. "Hi, I'm interested in the property on Maple Street that's coming to market soon." "Oh, wonderful. Are you familiar with the area?" The realtor, Janet, sounded enthusiastic. "Very familiar," I said, which was the understatement of the century. "I'd like to make a pre-market offer. Cash, no contingencies, quick close." The magic. Words. I could practically hear Janet's excitement through the phone. We arranged to meet that afternoon at a coffee shop across town, far from any place my family might see us. The hardest part was acting normal. When Mom called that evening, apparently my disownment came with an asterisk for when she needed to vent. I listened to her complain about the stress of selling the house. "It's breaking my heart, Sarah, but Jake's in real trouble this time. The people he owes money to aren't the patient type, if you know what I mean." I made sympathetic noises while reviewing mortgage pre-approval documents on my laptop. "That sounds really difficult, Mom. If only we had another option." She sighed heavily, clearly fishing for me to offer the money myself. "I'm sure you'll figure something out," I said, signing my name on the purchase agreement I'd already submitted. For the next week, I lived a double life. During the day, I coordinated inspections, finalized financing, and worked with Janet to expedite everything. In the evenings, I fielded calls from my parents, listening to their updates about preparing the house for sale while knowing I'd already bought it. The closing was scheduled for Friday. They still had no idea. Friday morning, I sat in the title company office, signing document after document. Each signature felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. When the notary handed me the keys to 1247 Maple Street, I held them so tightly, the metal left marks on my palm. I drove straight to the house, my house now, and sat in the driveway for 10 minutes, just breathing. Then I pulled out my phone and sent a group text to my parents and Jake. "Family meeting at the house. 1 hour. It's important." Mom responded immediately. "What's wrong? We're busy packing. Just be there," I typed back. I used that hour to walk through every room, touching the walls, remembering. The kitchen where Mom had taught me to make her famous apple pie. The living room where we'd opened Christmas presents. My old bedroom where I'd dreamed of my future. It all belonged to me now. When they arrived, I was sitting on the front porch steps, keys dangling from my finger. "Sarah, what's this about?" Dad asked, looking confused. "We told you not to come around anymore." "Funny thing," I said, standing up slowly. "I bought this house yesterday. Cash offer, closed this morning. So technically, you're on my property now." The silence stretched so long I could hear Mrs. Henderson's wind chimes next door. Jake was the first to explode. "What the hell are you talking about? You can't buy this house." "Actually, I can." And I did. I held up the deed. "It's all legal and official." Mom's face went white. Sarah, this is impossible. We were going to list it Monday. Were you? Because, according to my realtor, you accepted my offer last week. Dad's hands were shaking. You went behind our backs. You sabotaged us. I saved my inheritance, I corrected. The inheritance you tried to steal from me to fund Jake's gambling addiction. Jake lunged forward, and for a moment I thought he might actually hit me. You selfish bitch. Do you have any idea what you've done? I owe these people money. Then I suggest you figure out another way to pay them. One that doesn't involve destroying our family home. The next 72 hours were a masterclass in manipulation tactics I'd somehow never noticed before. It started with Jake's rage-filled voicemails. You've signed my death warrant, Sarah. These aren't people you mess with. If something happens to me, it's on you. His voice cracked with desperation, but underneath I could hear the same entitled anger that had defined our relationship for years. Mom tried the guilt approach. She called crying, her voice breaking as she painted pictures of Jake beaten and broken in some alley. How can you sleep at night knowing your brother might be hurt because of your selfishness? But it was Dad's call that revealed the most. Sarah, be reasonable. You can afford to lose that money. We'll pay you back eventually. With what money, Dad? You're both retired, and Jake hasn't held a steady job in 5 years. We'll figure it out. Family finds a way. Family, I repeated slowly. The same family that disowned me a week ago? The silence on his end spoke volumes. By Wednesday, their strategy shifted to bargaining. Mom called with a compromise I could keep the house, but take out a mortgage against it to give Jake the money he needed. When I refused, she accused me of being vindictive and cruel. You're enjoying this, she spat. You're enjoying watching your family suffer. No, Mom. I'm watching you finally face the consequences of 30 years of enabling. There's a difference. The most telling moment came Thursday evening when Jake called, his voice eerily calm. I talked to a lawyer. There might be ways to contest this sale. Undue influence, maybe. Family fraud. Good luck with that, I said, and hung up. Their true colors were showing, and they were uglier than I'd ever imagined. The first thing I did was change the locks. There was something deeply satisfying about hearing those new deadbolts click into place, knowing that for the first time in my life, I controlled who could enter my space. I took a week off work and threw myself into reclaiming every inch of the house. I started with Jake's old room, which had become a shrine to his potential, his high school trophies still displayed, his temporary belongings scattered everywhere, even though he'd moved out years ago. I packed it all into boxes and stored them in the garage. The room felt lighter immediately. In the kitchen, I peeled away that yellow wallpaper Mom had refused to change for 20 years, revealing the beautiful original wood underneath. Each strip that came down felt like shedding old skin. I painted the walls a warm sage green, my favorite color, not the beige Mom insisted was safe and timeless. The living room got the biggest transformation. Out went the heavy, dark furniture that had dominated the space since I was a child. I brought in light, modern pieces that actually fit my lifestyle. I hung artwork I'd collected over the years, but never had space to display properly. But it was my old bedroom that brought me to tears. Standing in that small space where I'd spent countless nights dreaming of escape, I realized I'd come full circle. I wasn't running away anymore. I was running toward something, toward a version of myself that refused to accept crumbs of love from people who should have cherished me. I painted that room a soft lavender and set up a reading nook by the window, the same window where I used to sit and plan my future now, looked out on a garden I could tend however I wanted. Each change I made wasn't just about decorating, it was about healing. I was rewriting the story of this house, transforming it from a place of conditional love into a sanctuary of self-respect. 6 months later, I was tending to the herb garden I'd planted where Mom's old rose bushes used to be when my phone rang. It was Jake, but his voice sounded different, quieter, less demanding. Sarah, I'm calling from a treatment center in Arizona. I nearly dropped my watering can. What? Gambling addiction recovery program. 90 days inpatient. He paused, and I could hear voices in the background. When you bought the house, when the money dried up completely, things got really bad. Rock bottom bad. I sat down on my porch steps, the same ones where I'd confronted them all those months ago. Are you okay? I'm alive. Barely, but I'm alive. And for the first time in years, I'm thinking clearly. His voice cracked slightly. Sarah, I owe you an apology. A real one. Not because I want something, but because I finally understand what I put you through. 3 weeks later, Mom called. Not the manipulative, guilt-laden calls I'd grown accustomed to, but something that sounded almost like the mother I remembered from childhood. I've been going to Al-Anon meetings, she said quietly, learning about enabling, about how I failed both of you. Dad was slower to come around, but eventually he sent a card, just a simple note saying he was proud of the woman I'd become, and sorry it took him so long to see it. The strangest part was realizing that that my refusal to enable Jake's destruction had actually saved him. By forcing him to face real consequences, I'd given him the gift of hitting bottom, the only place from which real recovery could begin. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to catch someone when they fall. A year later, I'm hosting Thanksgiving dinner in my dining room, the same room where I'd endured countless lectures about family loyalty and putting others first. But this table is surrounded by different faces now. My chosen family, college friends who've become sisters, colleagues who've become confidants, neighbors who've become genuine community. Mrs. Henderson sits at the head of the table, regaling everyone with stories about the neighborhood's history. My friend Marcus carves the turkey while his husband David argues good-naturedly with my coworker Lisa about football. The laughter is genuine, the love unconditional. Jake is doing well in his recovery program. We text occasionally, carefully, boundaried conversations that feel healthier than anything we shared growing up. Mom and I have coffee once a month, slowly, rebuilding something that resembles a relationship. Dad is still working on himself, but he sent me a birthday card this year without any strings attached. The house feels alive now in ways it never did when I was growing up. Every room tells a story of healing, of choosing myself, of refusing to accept love that came with impossible conditions. I used to think family meant blood, meant obligation, meant sacrificing yourself for people who shared your DNA. Now I know better. Family is the people who show up for you without expecting you to set yourself on fire to keep them warm. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away from people who don't value you. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to enable someone's destruction. And sometimes home isn't where you came from. It's what you build when you finally know your own worth. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe for more powerful revenge stories. And if you've ever faced betrayal or family drama, feel free to share your story in the comments, because your voice matters here.